as you were hearing them. Clearly we have Erdogan trying to stir up trouble, trying to stir up support, essentially. What about our new friends in the United Arab Emirates, for example, who are no friend of Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood movement? What type of sentiments are we seeing now, day 9 into this operation? Is there still neutral voices, or where are they being dragged?
I must say I agree with every single word that was said here in the studio. Erdogan is certainly not the kind of personality who can lecture anybody on human rights and who is a terrorist and who is not. In fact, I would go further and say that Turkey, Qatar, Iran sort of embraces Hamas and the Hezbollah, and in fact really tries to instigate a kind of uprising surrounding some kind of words that are very, let's say, incentivizing the masses to go out, such as Al-Aqsa and so on. If one just takes a quick glance at Al-Aqsa in the past almost a week, very many thousands, hundreds of thousands are praying there peacefully. No Jews are allowed to go up onto the mountain. Rather, Arabs and Muslims are welcome, and the peace and quiet is kept despite a truly complex and difficult situation. So what are the incentives of the likes of Erdogan, Qatar, Iran, and so on? They basically said quite plainly, not only in the Hamas charter, but in every opportunity. In fact, the Hamas plainly states, we do not accept the very existence of Israel. Full stop. Whoever wants to understand, understands, and whoever doesn't, doesn't. Our challenge here in the region, in Israel, and with our newly found friends in the UAE, Bahrain, and other like-minded countries that want stability, not necessarily out of love for Israel, but out of a wish for stability for their own people, like Egypt, like Jordan, etc. All of us should make absolutely sure that Erdogan, Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah do not succeed in their quest to create an uprising also amidst the Arabs within Israel. That's the next challenge.
Is it too early to see if this anti-Israel narrative is gaining traction throughout the region? Is it succeeding to rile up the region? We've seen the Palestinian arena get loud in terms of in Israel on the borders, but elsewhere in the region, are there protests in Cairo? Are there protests in some of the Arab capitals as well?
I think that very clearly in Cairo, Jordan, the UAE, Bahrain, you do have people who are emotional, without a doubt, but there are no huge protests. In fact, we see more protests in New York and in the US rather than and we see again the use, or let's say the maluse, okay, of democracies, Western style democracies, by the extremists for their own good. We saw it, we see it, and those who are experts in the matter are well aware of the dangers. It doesn't mean that we will become a non-democratic country. We shouldn't be there, we shouldn't go there, but it makes life more complex because we need to weigh human rights, the wish to live in coexistence with Arab neighbors in the region and with our Arab citizens inside Israel, and yet not allow the incitement, the throwing of 2,000 rockets on civilians and women and children without any indication that they don't want to hurt civilians. On the contrary, and doing it while using the Palestinians themselves in Gaza, by the way, the poor Palestinians as human shields themselves. So I really have no more words to say about Erdogan.
Just to add to that, the officials of